What's going on, friends? When it comes to fuel-injected Harleys, you may have noticed in the Screamin Eagle catalog that some of their Stage 4 kits come with larger injectors. Or maybe you've done a cam and a big bore kit in your bike, and you're not quite hitting the numbers that you expected. When it comes to fuel injectors in your Harley-Davidson, it really depends on what year model of motorcycle you're riding, and, well, obviously if it's fuel injected or not. But when you really start getting into it, fuel injectors can really make or break your horsepower numbers. This can leave you basically not quite reaching where you thought you would be with the combination that you've put together. Whether it be through a cam, set of heads, big bore kits, whatever combination you can think of. If you enjoyed today's video, please don't forget to drop a like on the video and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Now, as I mentioned, you may have noticed Harley's Stage 4 kits actually come with bigger fuel injectors and a bigger throttle body, which is really curious with no more power than they produce, and we're going to get into that here in a minute. But interestingly enough, with Harley-Davidson's motorcycles, starting out with the 88, they actually put some pretty decent size injectors in these. And when you think about it, when we take a look at the bigger bores that came later, these injectors were quite large for the size of engine the 88 actually was. Now on the 88s, they use 4.35 gram per second injectors. That's more what I would be expecting to see that came on basically the 96 or the 103. But interestingly enough, as the twin cam engine evolved and the bores got larger, the injector size got smaller on a lot of these bikes. Now, interestingly, when the 96 came out, Harley-Davidson dropped their injector size from 4.35 on the 88 to a 3.91 on the 96. They even ran this same 3.91 injector on the 103. But here's the trick. This was only on bikes with a cable-operated throttle. All the other bikes that had an electronically operated throttle by wire, you still got the 4.35 gram per second injector. Now, I really think the size of fuel injectors is something that is really not taken into account when you're building a Harley. Especially when you're going with some more than decent, bolt-in cams that have a little bit more overlap than most bolt-in cams out there. Especially like the wood. You really get into the wood cams and you're trying to make some power with those. And you're not quite hitting where you want to be with just a bolt-in cam. So you go ahead and do the heads and you're still not making it there. And it leads you to believe, oh, well, this cam or something went wrong or my mechanic told me wrong. Maybe just nobody's looked at the fuel system yet. So the main thing you need to be aware of here is that just putting in a bigger injector is not going to give you any kind of horsepower. In fact, it can cause more problems with overfueling and tuning than anything else. And the same is true if you're using too small of an injector with your build. You're basically not going to have enough fuel to achieve the top amount of horsepower that you want. So whatever you do, do not just go throw bigger injectors in your motorcycle and expect a horsepower gain. You have to put the things into the bike like a cam, a big bore kit, and a set of heads before you're actually going to really need the larger fuel injectors. And we're going to kind of talk about what fuel injectors, what they will support with the horsepower and the injector sizing on basically each model year. Now, if you guys are running a twin cam 88 with the 4.35 gram per second injectors, these things are usually good for up to about 115 horsepower, and that accounts for basically cubic inch displacements up to 100 on your 88. So you really don't have to worry about the fueling on the 88s because you've already got a big enough injector in that bike. Now with the twin cam 96 and the 103 and the stock injectors in there, let's say you bolt in a wood cam in there. A wood cam is really at about the top end of what the factory injectors are going to support at 3.91 grams per second. You're looking at about mid-90s as far as horsepower. So in the mid-90s, that's really about the top end of what that small injector can support. Now, if you're really trying to get your 96 or your 103 over 100 horsepower and you're going to do a bolt-on big bore kit or a cam or any combination thereof that's going to get you over 100 horsepower, you really want to consider going with a 4.9 gram per second fuel injector. That'll help fuel the bike properly and help push you over that 100 horsepower hump that you're trying to get to. Now, of course, if you're riding anything from 2007 to 2017 that's throttled by wire, this has the 4.35 per second gram injector. Now, typically with these bikes, you can get away with horsepower up to 120 on that factory injector. And this also includes any big bore kits from a 107 or a 110. So basically, if you've got a cable throttle bodied 2007 to 2017 twin cam and you want to go to a 110, you're really going to want to look at a 4.9 gram per second injector. I say injector, you're going to want two of them. One of them's not going to do you any good. Now, if you guys riding Milwaukee 8, you're looking at a 4.38 gram per second injector, which this is a good injector, which will support mild bolt-ons, decent cams. It'll actually support up to 120 horsepower. But now, if you got a Milwaukee 8 and you're wanting to put a monster big bore kit on it, you're going to need a pretty decent size injector to support that. If you're looking at producing over 120 horsepower on your Milwaukee 8, you really want to look into about a 5.5 or a 6.3 gram per second injector to get your M8 fueled properly. So guys, this is what was really interesting about the Screamin Eagle kits, and I'm looking at doing a video on this as well, as Harley seems to put a lot of parts into their kits that really may seem unnecessary. So if you're looking at the horsepower numbers that a Screamin Eagle Stage 4 kit actually puts out, it's really not in line with needing that larger throttle body or bigger injectors, depending on what year of bike you're putting it on. So every now and again, I see somebody that's went out, they've got a stock bike, they put a bolt-in cam in it, and they're really not getting anywhere near the advertised horsepower or what you would expect to get. You get a twin cam 103, you put a wood cam in it or something, and you're only getting about 90 horsepower, maybe even 85. Well, weather, tuning, a lot of that can have different effects on what the horsepower output you're going to get. So if you dyno your bike on a humid day, you're probably not going to hit the peak numbers that you'd expect to see. But a lot of times it can really come down to fueling with those really small injectors in the 2007 to 2017 cable-operated throttle body bikes. Now, I know it seems a little strange that they would put a smaller injector in the bikes operated with a throttle body that has a cable on it versus the throttle by wire bikes. The only thing I can figure is that the throttle by wire bikes are usually the bigger, heavier touring bikes, so I guess Harley figured maybe those are going to need more fuel than the dyno and Softail guys. So definitely if you're coming up a little soft on your numbers, or maybe if you even already have a big bore kit and a cam and some head work, maybe a new set of fuel injectors is definitely a good place to look. Maybe going up a size. Put a little more fuel in the bike and see what it does. Sometimes that can cure a lot of problems, but whatever you do, don't just go throw bigger injectors in your stock motorcycle. It's not really going to help you out any, and in fact, it's going to cause more problems than what you would really want to deal with. But anyhow, guys, that's all I've got for you this week. If you guys enjoyed the video, please don't forget to hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. But anyhow, guys, until next week, stay safe on the streets, ride safe, dodge the cars, and I'll catch you guys in next week's video. Thanks for watching.